So, the press today was reporting that our new Home Secretary, Javid, is already facing a backlash. Um, and on the surface, you would think it's the far right, but actually, he's facing a backlash from the hard left as well, far left, hard left, whatever you think is the most apt term. Um, and the attacks are, in my view, absolutely on both sides repugnant. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to try and keep this video as concise as possible. Um, Let me just make a disclaimer. Criticism of Mr. Javid in terms of policy areas is entirely legitimate. Sajid Javid is a conservative. I don't support the Conservative Party, and I'm sure there are many areas that I will find that I disagree with him on, and I believe I have disagreed with him in the past. Or taken issue with some of his positions. I'm not a Tory. I take issue with a lot of the positions of his party, and in some areas he is a true blue Tory. So that goes without saying. But the critical thing there is that is party politics. What I find unfortunate is that Mr. Javid's ethnicity is already being used as a point in which to attack him, and I think that is absolutely disgraceful. And one of the main reasons it's disgraceful is because the man himself rarely uses it as a point of one thing I respect about Sajid Javid is he doesn't endorse the sort of identity politics, at least not in a very pronounced way. Sure, he's mentioned that he is he's mentioned his heritage, and that's fine. But I don't think he's ever capitalized on it. I don't think he's ever sort of demanded special treatment or anything like that. I see absolutely no indication of that. So the responses are from the far right, and I don't apologise for using that term because that's what they are. That's respectful more than they deserve for the sort of blood and soil nationalists who come out with things like a Pakistani taking over our country. Let's be very clear here. Sajid Javid is a British citizen. He was born in this country in Rochdale in 1969. He studied in Bristol and he spent his whole life in this country. Our new Home Secretary is British. So these sort of, Pakistani taking over, it's very unfortunate and unfortunately not surprising. And there is a real ugly blood and soil ethnocentric attitude to that. And I've no time for it. I believe that any British citizen, regardless of ethnicity, has a right to engage in our politics, to stand for election, get elected, and climb the greasy pole to the top. So we have a British Pakistani Mayor of London, we have a British Pakistani Home Secretary. One is left wing, one is right wing. And both men have got to that position from being democratically elected. Javid in the case of being elected to his constituency and within the party mechanism. The Prime Minister's put him into that position. Now, whether that is to shield her, as some have speculated, as was said to be the case with Amber Rudd, maybe it is. But I think Javid has plenty of experience. He served as business secretary, he served as community secretary. So I think his experience is there. And I think he's very capable. Like I say, I might be in disagreement with some of his particular views on things. Apparently, he'd been a very soft Remainer, but now he's for Brexit. Now, the criticism has also come from the left, and Javid himself took issue with this, understandably so. He raised the issue in the comments and directly challenged Jeremy Corbyn to criticise it. And that criticism is that the hard left, presumably British Pakistanis and regressive leftists on the hard left, are basically calling Sajid Javid and apologies for quoting this, but an Uncle Tom and a coconut. And they insist this isn't racist. Well, of course it's racist, because they're insinuating that an ethnic minority person cannot cannot serve in a senior position in government. They're insinuating that because he's in the Conservative Party, he's therefore a sellout. What that indicates to me is that Sajid Javid is putting politics before identity. You know, he's putting his ideology as a conservative before his ethnicity, and that to me is progressive. If you don't like Sajid Javid's policies, fine, criticize those, but don't use his ethnicity to do it. So by smearing him as a coconut, that is to say, brown on the outside and white on the inside, is repugnant. Oh, now of course it's racist. It's got deeply damaging implications because it's kind of like saying, "Oh, he's not one of us. He's a traitor to his race." That's essentially what it comes down to, and I think it's repugnant. So shame on the far right for their ethnocentric, racist attitudes, and shame on the hard left for again bringing race into it. It is historic that he's elevated to the position that he's in. I mean, there's no getting away from that. It's history making. That's just a fact. But if Sajid Javid fails as a Home Secretary, it will have absolutely nothing to do with his ethnicity. If he's successful as a Home Secretary, it will have nothing to do with his ethnicity. That can't be totally ignored as as a footnote, but I really don't think it should be the main point of judgment. And I can understand why he was frustrated in the comments and why he challenged. Apparently, Diane Abbott did apologise, although he called on Corbyn to directly do that. But I'll just close with one point. You know, I've been very vocal that we need to be very candid about concerns on issues like immigration, integration, and other issues. The new Home Secretary has made it clear that his priority is to deal with the Windrush case, which is understandable. That's why he's come into this job. But there is, of course, many other priorities, counter-terrorism. I hope Javid will be very candid about the threat of pan-Islamism. I hope he won't skirt around the terminology on that. And rising crime, rising violent crime, those are all very big priorities. But to those neo-nationalists who think that the only way you can be British is by being white, basically. And they'll deny that, but that's basically what they're saying. So if you're one of those Twitter trolls saying a Pakistani is taking over, no, a British citizen has got this position. And the fact he has Pakistani heritage is only a demonstration of the fact we are a diverse country. It's not political correctness, it's just a statement of fact. So those ethnocentrists who think that I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but I believe it's somewhere in the region of varies from place to place. But you know, certainly in places like Leicester, Birmingham, and parts of London, the percentage is pretty high. The idea that only white Britons can stand for office is utterly absurd. Utterly absurd. Surely there's no greater way of integrating than being part of our political process. And the point about Javid is he's never indicated, yes, he's from a Muslim background, but he's never indicated to me that he has any Islamist inclinations whatsoever. And if he did, I would not be silent in my concerns about that. But from what I have seen, he's not particularly religious. He's quite secular minded. That's very important. And incidentally, I don't think there would even be a problem if a practicing Muslim, that is someone who went to mosque, read the Quran, wanted to enter public life, so long as they did not impose Islam into the public domain. That is the key litmus test. And I'm disappointed and saddened that he's had this sort of backlash. On the other hand, a lot of people have been supportive of the move, or at least the implications of it, which is that a man's ethnicity should not be a barrier to his ascent, and it shouldn't. So, to those racist trolls, I would suggest that Sajid Javid is more British than you are. And there are some on the right who downplay racism. It is out there. It is. That ethnocentrist bullshit, that blood and soil nationalism that sort of insinuates that only white Britons can stand for public office. As far as I'm concerned, that has no place in modern Britain. And that's got nothing to do with political correctness or legitimate debates about immigration.